WB Montreal, the creators of Gotham Knights, have been doing interviews left and right with news outlets throughout the industry, and while most of the questions and answers are simply about the direction of the game, for example, the developers have been talking about the game not being a game of service game, they've talked about how the gear system works, instead of it being like different gauntlets and boots and helmets that you can equip, instead you have different suits that each have different stats, so there's less customization that way, but it means you're going to get a more cohesive look out of each suit, which is kind of nice. What I want to talk about specifically is this question: are those 4 characters really the core characters of the game? To which the response from Redding was, we're going to have more detail later about our post-launch lineup, but those are the 4. They've discussed DLC a little bit in their other articles as well, but this question and answer combo seems to be hinting at specifically DLC characters, because the question was specifically about the characters that are in the game. The question was clearly trying to fish out additional information about potential other playable characters, and in response, Redding basically said, well, we've got the 4 that are in the game right now, and we also have additional information about post-launch content coming in the future. It doesn't get much more cut and dry than that. It definitely sounds like there's going to be additional playable characters in this game as DLC content, and I'm all here for it. I might do a more specific prediction and wishlist video later in the future, or perhaps even both, but today I want to talk more generally about the entire Bat family, the pool of characters I would consider even remotely possible for this game. Technically, anything is possible. Heck, they could add the Flash as a DLC character, but that would obviously be incredibly improbable. Before we get into this video, I'd like to take a moment to remind you to subscribe to the channel. It helps out a bunch, and I put out videos every single day with a couple exceptions here and there. Every couple months or so I miss a video here or there, but for the most part, we put out a video every single day here. According to my YouTube analytics, there's a bunch of new people wandering around right now on the channel, so if you're one of those, okay, I'm looking at you, new person, hit that subscribe button. So if you're not new around here, you already know hitting the like button helps just as much, and I appreciate you doing that. I won't be talking about some of the quote-unquote Bat family members, just because some of them are like comically unlikely. For example, we're not going to get Batmite as a playable character. It's just not going to happen. We're not going to get Ace the Bat Hound. These characters are very unlikely to be playable, so I'm going to avoid those. But excluding some pretty extreme examples, I'm going to be talking about every possible Bat family member that could join the lineup we have right now in this game. Let's start things off with Bluebird. Bluebird would certainly provide a unique aesthetic to the game. She's an engineer character, so she could have some interesting tech in her moveset. Her biggest issue right now is that she doesn't have a deep history with the Bat family, and as a result, she isn't exactly an easy DLC character to sell. She's not used in a lot of media outside of comic books, so the character is relatively unknown. Like, I guarantee there's some percentage of the people watching this video that just heard Bluebird for the first time. So as much as I would enjoy Bluebird, I just don't see it happening. Gotham and Gotham Girl. These 2 characters basically have the abilities of Superman, and as a result, they would be freaking awesome in this game, but it's also kind of working against them. The developers would have to do a lot of work to make these characters functional in a game like Gotham Knights. Characters like Gotham and Gotham Girl, they inherently don't need to be stealthy. They fly around. I'm just not sure if they're the best direction for this game. I'd be pleasantly surprised to find out they were added in the future. I just wouldn't put any bets on it. They also have the issue of being 2 separate characters entirely. Like, you can't really have one without the other, so they've got that working against them as well. Next up is the spoiler. Stephanie Brown's best chance to get into this game is likely as the spoiler, which I personally think would be a fantastic addition to the roster. I'm sure her history with Tim Drake and Barbara Gordon would lend itself to interesting voice lines and dialogue options in the game, and I would actually consider her a fairly likely character to join the roster, but some of the other characters I'm about to mention might be a little bit more marketable. We'll see. Cassandra Cain. As much as I would like to say Cassandra has a good chance of making it into this game, I actually don't think she does. Sadly, I just don't think we're going to get overlapping aliases, so I don't think we're going to get Cassandra Cain and Barbara Gordon in the same game because they're both effectively Batgirl. I mean, they're different characters, and Cassandra has even donned the Black Bat alias, but the Black Bat alias and Batgirl have very similar aesthetics, so from a design perspective, I just think there are better options here to prevent that type of overlapping that you wouldn't get with some of the other characters on this roster. Again, I'd love to see Cassandra as a playable character in this game. I just don't see it happening. Duke Thomas. I would love this so much. I think Duke would be a fantastic character in this game. I love Duke's design. It's a very colorful outfit, which you don't often get from a Bat family member. I just feel like Duke's not gonna make it. Unfortunately, Duke does not have a long history with the Bat family. He's a relatively new character. He's actually not like super super new, but he's not like a classic character that everybody knows, and he hasn't been used in any larger pieces of media like movies or TV series. So he would certainly have a harder time being sold as a DLC character, but I really hope he gets his shot in the spotlight in Gotham Knights. Huntress. Helena Wayne is the first character we've talked about that I would consider very likely as post-launch content. The character has been a huge part of the Bat family lore for an incredibly long time. Huntress, the character, is widely known outside of just comic book fans. There have been plenty of live-action adaptations of the character. She's been used in animated films. I'd honestly be a little bit surprised if we make it through all of the downloadable content in this game without actually having Huntress be a playable character. Catwoman. Similar things can be said for Selena Kyle, though I'm a little bit less confident about Catwoman making it as a playable character, because despite the character being so popular and so relevant in the world of Batman, a lot of her identity as a character comes from the way that she plays off of Bruce Wayne's character. I do think there's a lot of really good and interesting ways that you could handle Catwoman on her own without having Bruce Wayne to play off of, but I just think there's better options for DLC here than Catwoman as a result of that. Azrael. Azrael played a huge part in the Arkham Knight, but this is Gotham Knights, which isn't even connected to that world. So I can't even say that this company clearly likes Azrael because it's not even the same company. It's definitely difficult to say how or if Azrael will be connected to the world of Gotham Knights, but gosh, I hope they play this card. Azrael sounds like he would be so much fun as a playable character. From a gameplay perspective, from an aesthetic perspective, from a world building perspective, there might not be a more perfect character for this game. Please do not leave this one on the table, WB Montreal. Batwing. Batwing feels like he would be perfect for this game as well. People know the name Fox. Even if it's mostly just because of Lucius Fox, people would put two and two together pretty quickly if they don't already specifically know who Luke Fox is. Oh, on top of that, Luke Fox has actually been used in the Batwoman show. I actually completely forgot about this for a moment. So fans of that series will of course already know the name. They'll already be familiar with the character, even if they don't specifically recognize him as Batwing. So there's some cross-marketing stuff you can do there. Plus Batwing's just a really cool character, leans more towards the tech side than most of the Bat family, so it'd be cool to see how they adapt that into this type of game. Terry McGinnis, the fan favorite from the famous animated series Batman Beyond. Terry could be a fantastic character in this game, but obviously there are some timeline issues going on here. Maybe the DLC could be like non-canon, or even a whole DLC arc could be set in the future with some type of story DLC content. That'd be kind of cool, seeing some of these characters aged up a little bit, seeing how they all turn out after the events of the story. But that's a whole lot of work just to put Terry in the game, so unless they have some future plans for some type of Terry McGinnis game, which would be freaking awesome, I don't see them taking that direction with the story, unless, of course, like I said, the DLC content is like quote-unquote non-canon. Maybe they could just do a thing where Terry just exists in current year, and they just completely ignore his source material. I'd be okay with that if that's how we're supposed to get Terry in the game, but I think the most likely outcome is that they just don't use Terry McGinnis. Kate Kane's Batwoman. I mentioned Batwoman during my first impressions video, and for a good reason. I love the character of Kate Kane. I'm very hopeful for her potential appearance as a DLC character. Until then, I'll be happy to play Jason and Barbara, but as soon as we get Kate Kane in the game, if we get Kate Kane in the game, I'll never stop playing as her. And for my last character, Damian Wayne. I'm genuinely shocked Damian's not already in this game. When the average person thinks of the Bat family, they think of Barbara Gordon, Dick Grayson, Tim Drake, Jason Todd, and Damian Wayne. But Damian Wayne is not here, which really is a shame. Not only because of the way that you could handle Damian narratively, right? He could be like the lone wolf who kind of splits off from the group, or maybe not splits off from the group, but definitely kind of somebody that the rest of the team has to keep an eye on. I guess that's going to end up being Jason Todd in this game, but heck, why not throw Damian into the mix, you know? Obviously, that's kind of narratively difficult to handle. I mean, the 4 characters that we have in the game right now have very dominant personalities, so throwing another wild card into the mix with Damian Wayne would be kind of hard to do. Hopefully that means their answer to this was, you know what, let's make Damian Wayne DLC and we can do a whole story focusing on him in the League of Assassins. That would be freaking awesome. And I know a lot of people would love to see Damian in this game. Heck, I want to see Damian in this game, if not literally just because I want to use his damn sword. It's an action game, man. Give me a character with a sword. So that's it, the full lineup of characters we talked about. It's been a pretty long video, so let me give you a refresh on all the characters we talked about. We talked about Bluebird, Gotham, and Gotham Girl. The spoiler, Cassandra Cain, Duke Thomas, Huntress, Catwoman, Azrael, Batwing, Terry McGinnis, Batwoman, and Damian Wayne. This is the pool of characters that I would be choosing from if I was to make like a prediction list or a wish list or something like that. These are the characters that I would consider even possible to show up in the game. Now, of course, there are other characters that you could add to this pool, but I would certainly say that these are the ones most likely in the running. Let me know know if there's anybody on the list that you think doesn't deserve to be there. Let me know if there's a character you would have added to the list. I love these types of discussions, and I hope you do too. Before I end off the video, I do want to mention the slight possibility that they could add like villains to the game as playable characters. Like maybe they do a DLC pack and you play as Ra's al Ghul, and therefore you can play Ra's al Ghul wherever you want throughout the entirety of the game, or something like that. I decided to not take that into account for doing these types of videos because while it is certainly possible, I don't think we should expect that. I think the most likely outcome is we just get additional Bat family members because it's just like the natural extension of the story that they have going on here. Obviously, I'm open to being wrong about that. I would love to play as some villains in this game or some random characters that you might not even guess, like a character like Green Arrow. Like imagine Green Arrow is one of the playable characters. That'd be freaking awesome. I'd love to play as Oliver Queen, but I'm just gonna go with the most likely pool of characters, right? And that way, if I'm wrong, and then we do get like a surprise character like Oliver Queen, I'm gonna be very, very pleasantly surprised. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Bilbsy. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for the next video, and I'll be sure to see you then.